like if I can't provide service to someone, I have no business even talking to them.
Right.
If I don't believe it, right? You have to believe in what you're selling in order to be effective. Like you have to believe it's actually helping people.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, our sponsor for the show today is Pine Financial Group, the leader in hard money lending in Colorado and Minnesota, and they were recently approved to offer their investment publicly. This investment offer is only for investors in Colorado and Minnesota and is only made through their investment prospectus. Get your copy today. Simply visit www.pineinvestments.com and click to get started. Look, there's a reason why some of the wealthiest people in history invest in loans backed by real estate. Learn more about the risks and returns at www.pineinvestments.com. Hey, and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me today, I'm excited to have Scot Pekarek. Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Well, Scott, can you give our listeners a little bit about your background, what you got going on today?
Sure. I don't know how far you want me to go back, to the birth of Jesus Christ, but I've been accused of thinking I'm the Messiah at times. That's that whole egomaniacal, narcissism in me that comes out from time to time. But I am, currently I'm a real estate broker. I have an agency, Verde Real Estate Group, that has about 25 real estate agents, about 500 doors under property management. So we look at ourselves as kind of being that A to Z solution with, white glove service. Personally, I own about 100 doors, some with my wife and some with partners, the majority with my wife and I. There's pros and cons to both routes, and we'll probably get into that today. But currently pretty active, with more helping people buy and sell, and working on training our agents. Have not been a very active buyer this year, and we'll again probably talk about that a little bit more as to the whys. But it has a little bit to do with pricing and ROI, and I require a little bit higher ROI than we're seeing in the marketplace right now, simply because I know how much work goes into what we do. And if you, and different people have different levels of that, depending on what their backgrounds are and what they're used to. And, and that's fine. We're not here to judge what your numbers should be, but help you decide, okay, this is what my numbers are. Or this is what I need to get out of it. Is this property a good solution for me, or is it a good investment opportunity? And there's so many variables, as Todd, that go into that, right? There's some properties are just inherently more work, depending on their condition, the age, sometimes the types of types of mechanicals that are in there, right? And the age of them, it's just some people, people want to say, well, what's a good price for this property, or what's a good return on investment? And I'm always like, the only truthful answer you can ever give someone is it depends. Depends on what you're looking for. It depends on what level of engagement you're going to have in the maintenance of the property, and so on and so on. So I got off topic. You got to rein me in, Todd. I'll warn you for your listeners. Scott has a tendency to go off into the wild when he's asked a question. By the time we get back to the question, you'll be old and gray. So anyway, that's just fair warning if you're going to listen to this podcast. We might start talking about ROI and cap rates, and I'll be talking about existentialism and Tibetan monks. So I'll try to restrain myself today a little bit. So
perfect. Well, let's dig in a couple of those things, because you mentioned how it depends, and that's true. I mean, everybody's got a different strategy too. Not only do you have different ROI expectations, but you have different strategies out there. What's your kind of investing strategy, and why aren't you buying in 2019?
Well, what's my strategy? Well, it depends, Todd. No, well, it does. I have done like, I did not, my career or my vocation, dreams never had real estate agent, real estate broker, real estate investor in them. I grew up on a dairy farm in central Minnesota, and living off the fat of the land, just like Lenny from Mice and Men, that was, I had a very limited mindset back then. And I had a very, closed mind, for lack of a better word, because I didn't understand the possibility. I had no idea what real estate investing was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until, I went to school, went to college. I got a 4-year degree in 7 years, which is very impressive. I'm sure,
Yeah, congrats.
most people are doctors, right? And, or lawyers or attorneys or whatever. And I've got a 4-year undergraduate degree from St. Cloud State University. However, I got into MIS, computer information systems, and I was a tech guy. And I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki is one of those, you have moments in your life where everything changes, right? And hopefully for the better, and sometimes not. And we're not going to talk those stories today, although they're very exciting, the things where life changed for the negative for Scott. But that book changed my mindset, and that started me on this journey. I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And it was just this complete paradigm shift for me. How does this relate to real estate? Well, that got me into real estate. I'm like, I knew I did not like sitting in a cubicle. Even though I worked my butt off, companies like Target, Ernst & Young, it taught me a level of professionalism and dealing with, office politics and stuff, which serves me well today. Running a company, like I wouldn't trade that experience for anything in the world. Like in most experiences you go through life, sometimes the negative ones are the ones you learn from the most, right? Not that I'm saying that one was necessarily negative, but it just wasn't who I was. So I got into real estate by a friend of mine. He bought a 4-unit property. And back in 2002, 1, 2, 3, this friend, I'll name him, named Grant Bernardi. I spent time with him last night. I went to college with him, and I met him when he and his friends walked out on a tab when I was working at Perkins. So, hey, Grant's the only guy who came back the next day to pay for his meal. so like, he's a higher quality person than, some of the other guys he's hanging out with. Anyway, so I remember a conversation I had with Grant. He's like, I was talking about real estate, this, that. And he's like, Scott, you got to get off the fence. Quit talking about it and go do something about it. So what I did was, he bought this 4-unit property. I went and got my real estate license. He let me market it for sale. And what he did was we were converting it. He's like, I want to convert this into condominiums. All right. This is what I need to do. So he'd owned it for a couple of years. So I went and learned from one of my mentors at the brokerage I joined up with, the process of converting a rental property into condominiums.
Yep.
And not that I didn't do it just to sell his property, because that would have been a very short term, look at it. I took the knowledge and I started sending postcards out to everybody who had a multi-unit in the uptown area in Southwest Minneapolis. And I said, you know what, here's this property. We're converted into condos. And at this point, we had just put it on the market. And I said, I can show you how to do that too. All right. So what was I doing? My approach there was to use this event to market myself. I was a new real estate guy. I had no experience. And I'm like, I'm going to show you how to do this. But I had a big vision. And, the phone started ringing. I partnered with a guy with experience. He'd been in the business like 15 years. So when I marketed us, I'd say, yeah, 15 years combined experience. I had like 15 days, 15 minutes. And then we started getting people who were responding to our postcards. And this led into 100, 200, 300 units that we sold over the course of the next 5 years until about 2008. And we were able to charge a good fee because we were providing a high level of service. I remember I would send out a card and I'd say, sold in, 5 days, 10% over listing price, and people just ate it up because it was true. And they're like, this guy can provide real service. And a lot of times in our industry, people think we're entitled to commissions. We're entitled to clients. We're not really entitled to to anything. No one is, right? There's an entitlement mentality sometimes in this business. And, what drove me was always being humble, knowing, look, if I can't provide service to someone, I have no business even talking to them. Right. If I don't believe it, right? You have to believe in what you're selling in order to be effective. You have to believe it's actually helping people. And I know there's snake oil salesmen out there that, will, cram people into something that doesn't make sense, just to earn a quick buck. Well, that's a real short game. So when you ask, now this is me talking about Tibetan monks, I understand based on the question you asked, but what that did is it got me in the business and got me realizing I wanted to be in business for the long run, right? So when you talk about my investment strategy, it's the same strategy that when I got into the real estate industry, 18 odd years ago, whatever it is. And I realized like, I want to build a career where I'm going to be here, long after everyone else drops out. And I've taken a similar approach to like real estate investing. Even though I've done a lot of like your, buy to rehab to resell, some people call them flips. I mean, whatever. I mean, a flip is, some people call flips an assignment, and there's nothing wrong with, doing an assignment. And those people that don't know, it's, you get a contract on a property and then you market it to other investors. You say, I want to make 10 grand or whatever the number is because I found the seller, and then they go and rehab a property, which is, it's completely ethical and completely, to me, you're actually helping people in that process. Because a lot of times you got a motivated seller, right? Who, and the property's in terrible condition, and a lot of times it's in a state and people just don't want to deal with it. Anyway, so I took a long-term approach with many of my investments, and but here's what happened. It got to be about 2006, 2006-07. I'm like, oh my gosh, this market is crazy. Like, for those of us that have don't have long-term memory disorder, we remember what's going on then. Like, you could basically, if you could teach your dog to bark its name and put a paw print on a mortgage, they'd give you money. And I remember just thinking, there's no way. There is absolutely no way this is sustainable. This is going to explode. And this was like at the end of 2006. So, and so I basically sold everything between then and 2007, and had like 2 properties left, 2 like houses. And then of course I was really smart because, question for you, Todd, do you know when the market actually peaked?
Probably early part of 2006.
Well, it was actually May 10th, 2007 at 12:03 p.m. because that was the exact moment the money of my house that I was buying hit the seller's bank account. And that's a house I sold 2 years ago. And I'm pretty sure I lost about $200,000 and all the improvement that I did. It took me 10 years to realize a loss of $200,000, which has no taxable event on your, you're exempt up to $500,000 gain, with your wife. And of course, I'm the guy who figured out how to lose money. But anyway, what I did was in 2008, I started buying again, 2008, 9 during the crash. And that was, again, purely long term. And I remember you could buy a house, $25,000, $30,000. You could buy it. And I went and bought like 40 or 50 of those, either myself or with a partner. And I remember I was buying these, when I started out, I was buying these houses cash. Yeah. All right. And I was like, okay, so I had like 10 under contract, and I needed like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. I don't know what the number actually was, but I do know the number I had in my bank account was about 80. And I had 10 houses under contract supposed to close in like 30 to 40 days. Some were short sales, some were REO. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? But I knew I had to buy. This was like 2009, 10. I knew I had to get them because I knew that these houses you could buy for 30 or 40 grand. You could rent them out for $1,200 to $1,500. Right. So I found a bank that would let us buy the house cash and fix it up. And in the fixing, after you fix it up, they'd appraise it and they'd give you 70% loan to value. So if I buy a house for, I don't know, say $40,000, say $35,000, a lot of times fixing up was paint and appliances, flooring, you could $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 have like, a house that was very rentable and in decent condition. And, I'd put that money in, and the bank would come in and they'd appraise it for, say, $60,000, and you get 70% of that, you get 42 grand back at the closing minus fees. So I was basically able to buy these houses for like no money out of pocket. You paid for them, but then you got your money back.
Got your money back. Yep.
It was fantastic. So that led to like where I am today, buying those properties. Now I've sold some of them now. It's still long-term play, but then, moving it into, a duplex or a 4-unit, or, selling a few of them and then buying like, a 10-unit or something. So, So anyway, what my goal is, some of these things are, it depends on the opportunity, right? Because in that period, we were buying homes and then rehabbing them and reselling them too. And, what happens when you buy, do that, then you got to pay short-term capital gains, but whatever. If the property, you look at the property and you decide, does this, what's the highest best use, and then you overlay what your strategy is. And that's kind of how you come up with, or that's how I come up with what's the best route to go. And you talk about today, like, you look at the prices and they're just, most of these properties overwhelmingly, I'm not saying you can't find value. You can. You got to hustle. You got to really look, and you're going to have to probably do a lot more work than you did 10 years ago. I can't believe it's been 10 years. But one of the reasons I'm sitting out a little bit right now is just because it's taking too much work, and I have twin 5-year-old boys. So I'm deciding that I'm not going to work, 8 days a week, 25 hours a day like I used to. And I'm going to wait for a little correction, in the market, because for me, it's not worth the amount of time I'd have to invest to, with the returns there are right now, to justify that kind of, time expenditure, and then miss out on the time with my kids, and I'm fortunate enough. I worked like a maniac for, my whole life to be able to be in this position. I'm 46 years old. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm definitely not old. I'm not elderly. I plan to live another 50 years, but you change priorities in 5 years. My kids are going to hate my guts because they're going to be almost teenagers, and they're not going to want to be around me. So might as well enjoy it now and make the memories, and then go through the dark ages, for 5 or 6 years until they go to college and want me to write them a check. So, that's my strategy.
So chill out for a little while, hang out with the kids, then they hate you, work really hard, and then pay.
Yeah. So I can pay for their college.
In the cycle. I gotta love it. And so you got the investments, so you've got your brokerage, and you've got the property management company. Tell us about those businesses, and maybe a couple things that you've learned along the way that have really helped you grow those businesses. Because before we jumped on, you've got about 500 units that you manage. You've got 25, I think, real estate agents, you said. So obviously you've grown those businesses to be something. And so I want to learn maybe 3 success tips that you can give our listeners to really growing those businesses.
Good at 3. Like right now there's like 300, because every time I make a mistake, it's like a lesson. But I will say number 1 is don't assume that you know what people don't know. And that's one that I have to constantly remind myself of, like because a lot of times we fall in the trap that we think that we know that people, I don't want to say that they're smarter than we, that we assume they're smarter than they are, because that sounds negative, and I don't want to be disparaging. I think what it is that we all have our own experiences, right? We all have our own perspectives. We're all uniquely awesome in our own way, right? And that you've gone, especially once you've been doing this for a couple decades, you start making assumptions that, your experiences, you're like, well, that's just how it is, and that's how things have worked. And then you assume other people already know that, or they might have had a similar experience, but they're coming from a different perspective. And you make the mistake of not asking questions. And I've done that, where I'm like, I just assume, like, it happens with mortgage financing all the time, where you get agents who've got the best of intentions in the world, or mortgage brokers, or loan out, whatever, bankers, where they assume that the buyer knows, don't quit your job the week before you are buying a property, right? Or people will say, I'm going to be a real estate investor. So they shift out of their career that they've had for 20 years, and they're like, okay, now I'm ready to start buying. Like, well, no, you're actually not, because you're not gonna get a loan because you quit your job.
Right.
Or they go buy, they make that awesome, buy that $200,000 boat, or whatever, which sounds awesome, but it screws up ratios and stuff. And you really have to bring it back to basics with people, and just say, okay, I'm going to tell you some things that you might already know, but I'm going to check the boxes to make sure that you do actually know it, or you at least know, because I'm trying to position you the best way I can to make sure that you can achieve your goals. So, don't assume to know what people don't know.
Yeah, I think it's so common for that, because we've done it so many times. We've repeated the process, and it's easy to forget like where you began. And so for
Right.
me, like, I've made that mistake plenty of times, especially hiring people. Like, you just hire somebody and you give them kind of the outline, and this is what you got to do. And then you go, obviously they know what they're doing, because I know, like, that's so easy to me. So it's just going to be,
Right.
and you wonder why they're not getting anything done. Well, it's because they have no freaking clue what they're supposed to do, but you just assume that they knew it because it's automatic.
It's obvious, right? Because I know
Right.
it. Like you must know it too.
Right.
Like, and
Right.
it's
This
funny
is
you bring
really
up.
easy stuff.
Yeah, like, duh, like why don't you know this? I
Yeah.
mean, and the reason we know it, like I'm sure you too, Todd, because you probably made a lot of mistakes,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh damn, don't do that again, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you learn those lessons,
You've
and
learned it over 10 years.
yeah, and it comes down to like hubris a little bit too. Like you got to fall on your face
Yeah.
enough times to like and it's good to fail. It's so good to fail,
Yeah.
especially early on, because if you get I saw it in. Well, I'm seeing it a little bit now. I saw it the last time we had a market correction. You have these guys have this meteoric rise, and then they don't have a lot of adversity because the market's lifting them up and
Yeah.
correcting any mistakes. And then if we get a correction, you're going to see a massive, just you're going to see the, the blood.
implosion.
You're going to hear the implosion, the blood curdling scream of these
Mhm.
people because they finally ran into real adversity, and hubris is a big word, and this is another lesson. Like, you got to check your ego. Like
Yeah.
I do this a lot, especially like, people are like, oh, Scott, you're living the life of your dreams. I'm like, hell no, no way. I'm like, cause you know why? Cause I could have never dreamed this big when I was growing up. Like I grew up, we were the poorest people in our school. Like we had, like, if there was a government program, we were on it. Food stamps on it, free lunch on it, medical assistance on it, heating assistance on it, government cheese, that was like a food group, in our house. Right. And we were the farmers, like we were like getting free food, even though we were the ones growing the food. And, I think about, the money itself doesn't make you happy. Like it doesn't. Like I remember, a year ago, I was like just miserable. And I was like, I didn't know why. I couldn't understand why I was so miserable. I'm like, well, I've done, TV told me that if you got, all this, you got a successful business, you got rental units, you've got good income, you've got some money in the bank, uh, nice cars, nice house, great wife, great kids. Like, and I was miserable. Like I was absolutely miserable and I couldn't figure it out. And, the problem is I was attaching so much significance to things and thinking, okay, if I get the next thing, the new car, a new house, or the next building, like this is going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And, happiness isn't something that, is external, it's internal. Right. And, I went on I did this thing called Warrior Week. It's this thing in California, and it was phenomenal. It like reawoken like the part of me that I'd kind of been suppressing, where it's like, okay, just be happy with what you have, right? Whatever that is. I remember being like happy as a kid growing up with nothing, and I got to play with, I had 6 brothers, and I get to play with my brothers every day with some old cars and stuff, or go pretend that we were like army men in the woods or something, and you have to like find that ground, like that's a lesson, like no matter where you're at, like just ground yourself. And it's funny, I've lost money on one deal in real estate. Like it was a really good streak I was on. 2017, the peak of the market, like when things are going great, is I bought this house in Uptown for way too much, over 400, and I thought I was going to sell for close to $1 million. And then I like over improved it, and did about everything wrong you could possibly do, and I ended up losing like 6 figures. It was just like, and I remember looking through my books, and I found this book, The Richest Man in Babylon, George Clausen. And if every kid should read this book, it's written like a fable, and it's about, I don't know, 100 pages. It takes, you can read it in an afternoon.
Yeah.
I read that book. It's the 3rd time I've read it, but I hadn't read it in 15 years. And I just kept thinking, this is, I'm like, I need to make a commitment to read this book every year. Because if I would have read this book, I would not have made that mistake. I would not have I would have, again, the mistake of hubris, right? Like this, your ego get in the way. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be this high-end developer. Right. And I spent like $400,000 rehabbing this place. And I'll tell you that the funniest part is I got audited on the 2017 return, and the damn IRS agent made me revisit that property. And I had to go through every expense, which I had. Like, I keep meticulous records, meticulous. And I had everything. I had photos and everything. And I'm like, I just told her, I'm like, this is actually the universe or God telling, reminding me that don't forget this, because this is what happens when you let your ego get the best of you. So,
hey, let's take a minute to thank our sponsor, Pine Financial Group. Look, you work hard for your money. Is your money working hard for you? Because of inflation, money sitting idle erodes your wealth. Many investors understand that real estate is a great investment, but may not want the effort or the risk that comes with owning their own property. They want to sit back and have payments, hit their bank account each and every month. Stop eroding your wealth and start building by asking your money to work for you. You should be earning profits while you sleep, an investment backed by real estate. Pine Financial Group, the leader in hard money lending in Colorado and Minnesota, was recently approved to offer their investment publicly. This investment offer is only for investors in Colorado and Minnesota and is only made through the investment prospectus. Get your copy today. Simply visit www.pineinvestments.com and click to get started. There's a reason why some of the wealthiest people in history invest in loans backed by real estate. Learn more about the risks and returns at www.pineinvestments.com. It's www.pineinvestments.com.
So I guess number 2 would be check your ego. Check your ego, right? Because your ego will bite you in the ass every time. Like, and the better you do, I'll always understand that you're just one bad decision away from screwing it all up.
100%. Easy to get sloppy.
Yeah, it is. And the numbers matter. Like the numbers are the scoreboard. Bill Parcells said it best. You are what your record says you are. Right. And just because you've always made money is no guarantee that you're going to keep making money. Past results are not, don't guarantee or past whatever. No. What is the phrase?
I can't remember, but I know.
Or no guarantee of future whatever
results.
Gain. Yeah. And then the last one, number 3. Again, it takes me a while to get to 3. Imagine if you said 300. The last one is stay curious and ask questions. Like you've got, kids are. I've been talking about this a lot lately, but the mind of a child is amazing. Like it's this idea, just because it's the way it's always been done doesn't mean that that's the way you should keep doing it. Children ask questions, and we should ask questions of our clients, right? And ask questions of ourselves and ask questions of our employees, and make sure that, we don't forget about curiosity, because curiosity is what is the father or the mother of creativity. Right. And, I'm always amazed by the questions our kids ask, because with kids, all things are possible. Like they live in this amazing world where life hasn't beaten them down, beaten them into submission, where you get cynical and sarcastic and you're like, well, that's never going to work because, just because, I'm bitter. And, it's just like, if people were more curious, with regards to their life in general, regards to like their finances, more curious in regards to their health, their own choices when it comes to nutrition and health, more curious when it comes to their spouses, there'd be less divorce, right? Ask your spouse. Hey, I remember I got on a plane. I went to this Genius Network event in Phoenix a few weeks back. And I was reading this book, The Road Less Stupid. All right. Keith Cunningham, The Road Less Stupid. And like one of the things that has been rekindled in me is curiosity. I'm reading way more than I have in 10 years. And I love reading. It's like my favorite thing to do. I love learning. And I forgot about that. We talked about last year going to Warrior Week and stuff. I forgot how much I loved learning. Like I quit learning. And I was like, my wife and I were kind of arguing, and I'm like, I wonder what the hell she wants. And in the book, he's like, yeah, I was the guy, Keith Cunningham, the author. He's like, I'd just been divorced and I was like dating again. And, I decided, I was like, met this woman. She seemed really cool. And I decided like, maybe I'll just ask her what she wants out of a husband. Like maybe I'll just sit down at this first date and say, hey, what are you, what do you want? And she's like, to be loved and adored. And he's like, well, what does that look like? And she proceeded to give him stuff for like 2 hours that he wrote like for 2 hours. And so often in life, so many of the problems, we have all these questions. Well, I wonder what people want. I have an idea. Maybe go ask them.
Right.
Like, like my employees are sitting here right now. Like, hopefully they can't hear me. No, but hopefully they can hear me. Like, I wonder what they want. I ask them, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of the workplace? Like, well, we want to be respected. We want to be, treated with respect. We want to learn. We want to grow. We want some flexibility, so we don't have to like be here from 8:30 on the dot and leave at 5 on the dot. And, we want to be a part of something bigger. It's what I came up with, what they told me. And I'm like, all right, I can do that. I can give you that. I can give you all of that. And I'm like, the only thing I asked you guys, and you talked about hiring people like this summer, I ended up hiring like 4 or 5 people and like having to let most of them go because I didn't know what I wanted out of a culture. And through that process, I learned what I wanted in my office.
Yeah.
And, and I told them like, what I want from you guys is I want you to like each other, what you do, like they like each other. Like you can't force them to like each other,
right.
But I want you to work together and cover each other's six, cover each other's butts. All right. And when one of you guys needs to get away, you understand that the other people are going to take care of your work.
Yep.
And then you're going to do the same when you come back.
Yep.
And, and then, the curiosity as applies to like our clients, ask them what they want. Like, I think I have my goals for real estate. You have your goals, Todd, and which might evolve and change, but we can't assume that our clients have the same goals, right?
And sometimes we just try to tell them what they want, right?
Right.
Yeah. We know so much that we're just going to tell them everything they should know and should want to know. And, all this, just assuming instead of asking a simple question.
Ask. And it's like, yeah, I mean, again, ego, like, well, I know what you should want, right? Like I want you to, I want all my clients to have the level of wealth that they want to attain, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Well, it depends. Like, let's talk about that. Like, you get these guys, I want to be the next, billionaire in like, in next year, or, I'm going to be, like $100 million in,
right.
12 months. Okay. Yeah. You tell me how you do.
Yeah.
Write a book about it. I'll be the first one to buy it, it's the reason they call it, it's work, right? Like you it's a get rich slow thing. And you might get lucky on a few deals where, we've all had the home runs, right? Where you're going for a single and then all of a sudden you connect and it goes out of the park. Well, it's nothing you did, right? Like sometimes there's external forces that'll lift you up. And, but if you're shooting for home runs on every deal, that's a game plan for disaster in my book.
Yep. 100%. I agree. So I'm sure you've been in this business a long time. You've probably made a mistake or two along the way. What's one mistake you can point to and how have you learned from it?
Ooh, just one.
One.
That is,
that's tough. I know.
Yeah. There's some easy ones that you can like look back to. Like, I always wish I would have wouldn't have bought the house in 2007, right?
Yeah.
And when then we remodeled it, like the exact moment. That's actually kind of a funny story. So we buy this house, it needed just a ton of work, and we paid like, I don't know, almost $600,000 for it. And yeah, smart, right? 2007, good timing. So it just shows you, like, I'm in this business, and I make some of the stupidest mistakes of anybody, and I try to help people like not make them, like by telling these stories, right? So we buy this house, and then we lived in it for a few months, 6 months or whatever. And like one day my wife came home, she's like, I can't handle it in here. I'm like, I'm moving to this condo and we're going to get this house remodeled. So, which was fine. That was the plan. And we had just sold a house that we rehabbed. So I had, I don't know, $150,000 cash in the bank. And this is right before the crash. So this is 2008. So it was probably a year after we were living there. So we decided, okay, let's get the demo. Let's get all these bids. So we move out, and they dropped the chimney down. They took the back half of the house off, and like the house was like wide open. It was like gutted. And we're like, okay, well, I got this 150 grand. I'm going to pay off a couple credit lines that are open. They're open credit lines, but it's the responsible thing to do. And I'll write the checks as needed, pay for the rehab, which seemed like a very logical thing to do. Well, about 8 seconds after the back of the house had been tore off, I get a letter from the bank where I just paid the credit line off, where it said, yeah, by the way, we're canceling your credit line because and we're closing this down, and the only thing that you can have here are the loans you still have open, and we expect you to pay those off. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? This is all my money. Like, this is all my money, like to do this rehab. Well, as it turns out, I won't name the bank, but they were under receivership from the feds, and they basically were being taken over and going to be sold because they had done so many bad loans, like everyone did in 2000, up to 2008. And then that's when the bottom fell out. So I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I've got a $200,000 rehab project here. I'm living in
money.
with no money. So what I did is I said, all right, it's like Butch Cassidy. I tell my wife it's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and that's the Mexican army out there. And we got one way out. It's that door, and we better come out guns blazing. So we worked so hard. Like I got signed up with all these banks and asset disposition companies that were basically getting rid of foreclosed homes. And I hired a guy. What I did is I doubled down. I hired a guy to sign me up for all these banks and getting in with all these different asset managers and stuff. And that next year, 2009, I did 250 transactions, real estate transactions, with one assistant and a couple of support people doing like broker price opinions and property checks. And then the next year, I think we did like 260 or something. So we had about a 3 or 4 year run where I had like unit volume. I was number one at Big Blue, Coldwell Banker at the time. In listings, and I was top 5 for a number of years. Like I just said, we're going to work, and we're going to get our way. We made this mistake. It wasn't, you couldn't really seen it coming, but you kind of could. And I'm like, we're going to work our way through it. And, there's nothing like hard work to get when you make a mistake. The other one I talk about, let my ego get the best of me with that house, losing $100,000. But, if I could go back, and I would have bought more real estate back then. But at the time I got a little myopic, where I wasn't an active buyer so much in 2008, 2009, because I was so worried about this house that we were remodeling and like the money that I was putting into it, when in reality, if I would have bought 10 more houses, I would have probably made a couple $1 million. So.
Yeah. Easy in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
But in 2008 and 2009, this is what I tell people, because I started in 2008 and people are like, oh, wow, what a great time to start. Well, yeah, now looking back, but everybody in 2008, 2009, 2010 told you you're stupid, you're an idiot, you're crazy, you're going to lose your butt. I mean, and the banks weren't giving away money during that time. So
no, it was Chicken Little,
story.
The sky's falling, and all over the place. And I don't believe in our lifetime we'll see anything like it. We might see something
hard to say, but
different, like it. There's a debt bomb a lot of people think is coming, but who knows? I'm not doom and gloom. What I am is take the data you have available, do the best you can with the data. Don't disregard the data. Don't have confirmation bias. We only look at the data that you think is, supports your point of view. Always have, a trusted team of people around you that can like talk you off the ledge, and throw the bucket of cold water in your face when you need it. That is key, but not, but then there's the other people that, are always looking to protect you so that you don't, you won't go out and risk anything, right? And hey, just put that 2% a month into your 401k. Not that that's bad advice, but it's also, there's this whole world of possibility that exists out there. So you need to surround yourself with people who have been there, right? And try to find a mentorship team. And a lot of times that can be tough, because these people have the more success they have, the more people that either they want to be around them. And there's some people that want to bring them down, right? Because they're bitter and they have envy, of other people's success. Me, I think I want everyone around me to be the best that they could possibly dream, and in that process, I want to like be a part of that, like be a part of seeing, Utah. If there's a way I can help you, I would love to do it. Right. Like, it's not, it's humbling to like see other people succeed and know that you in some way had a part in that, even if it's a small way, because you're like, and that's such a powerful place to be. And I wasn't always there, right? I had a lot of envy, growing up, and like I'd see people that, oh gosh, that guy's got, 500 units and, drives nice cars. Well, he got lucky, right? That was his parents, doing it. No. It takes some guts. It takes some courage when it's your, even if it's, there's a certain point you leave the nest and it becomes real, and that's what you find out who you are. And it's funny. I I bought the book Tools for Titans a year ago, whatever. And I opened it up this weekend for some reason. It's Tim Ferriss. He wrote Tools for Titans. Great book. Talks about all these millionaires and billionaires and how they achieve their success. And, a lot of it, the stories are awesome. It's like a lot of hard work. Like success comes dressed in overalls and looks like hard work, right? So that's what it is, and I'm sorry that some of you out there who had a different dream, it's not, it just is. So there was a foreword of the book and I started reading it, and it was, it didn't take me long to figure out who it was, but he was talking about, when I came from Austria, I worked basically as a carpenter and, basically a bricklayer or something, I don't have the facts and completely accurate, but he's like, people say that, I'm self-made. He's like, there could be nothing further from the truth. It's like, I don't believe anyone's self-made. There are people along the way who serve, I'm going to use my own words, but just serve as beacons and help, you calibrate, as you go and change your trajectory. And he's like, it would be the height of narcissism if I ever said I was self-made, or if I ever agreed to that, if I ever actually believed that. And the guy was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Yeah. So, it was like, for me, it was a reminder. Like, I don't think it was a coincidence I was reading that book yesterday, because it's just a reminder. Hey, look, you cannot do it by yourself. Or if you think you can, you're missing out on part of the gift. Like, and then, I was recently diagnosed with brain cancer, like in August. And the only thing like I can do is like, I want to help other people, who are like, I started a YouTube channel and stuff, and not to pontificate on this, but like my goal is to, I'm battling this through integrative methods and stuff. But my goal, I started a YouTube channel called Tumor Tales, because I'm doing videos almost daily talking about what I'm doing to try to get through this, because people have had success, and I'm trying to, and my goal there is not to give people medical advice, but it's to tell people, be curious, be creative, and think about the possibility. I could have take this as a death sentence, but I refuse to. Right. I compare it to 2001 when someone said, hey, Scott, I was working at Target Corporation, and the guy's like, Scott, you're a great Java programmer. You're so good. And I remember his name was Keith. Great guy, wonderful guy. And I'm like, he's like, I teach at St. Paul College. I want you to teach Java there. And the dean of the university wants you to teach it too. Well, you go talk to him. Like, I felt really bad because I didn't really want to do it. And I'll tell you why in a second. So I go meet with the dean, and he's like, yeah, you're great, Scott. We want you to start 3 weeks. Or I don't know, 2 months or whatever. We have this Java class that we've got out here, but we have no instructor. So I'm like, Java programming. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Well, here's the dirty little secret. I basically only knew how to spell Java. I had never programmed any so programming Java. So I signed up to teach a 17-week class in Java programming at St. Paul College, not knowing a damn thing about it. So I stayed one chapter ahead of the students every week. It was a Monday night class. I remember my Sundays were horrible. I should have been sitting home watching football, happy and fat. But I was like cramming Java, and then I'd have a lot of guest speakers to kind of mask. Yeah, but I felt like I gave the class a service, because I did teach them. I did know what I was talking about when I was talking about, and I brought in like, I don't know, a dozen industry professionals that they can network with. Yeah. So when they got through this class, they could actually had a network when they got out that they get good jobs. So. But anyway, that's my job story.
Oh, love it. Love the stories, man. All right. So we got to wrap up. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions before we do wrap. What's a favorite business or real estate book?
Favorite business or real estate book? Wow. Oh my gosh. I got to think for a second here. I mean, Keith Cunningham's Road Less Stupid is one that I've recently read. Anything by Gary Vee is awesome, because Gary Vee just has energy, and I think he probably annoys some people. I don't care. I think he's great. Yeah. Well, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, all those books are fantastic if you want to get into real estate. Yeah. And Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. I was just in Nashville.
I love that book.
Oh, Donald Miller. I don't have man crushes on too many people. Particularly men, but no, but Donald Miller is like we did a 1-day business development session with Don in Nashville 2 Fridays ago, and it cost me a king's ransom, but it was worth every penny I took. Turns out I ended up taking 3 of my brothers, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, my wife, and it wasn't meant to be a family event, but we had like this fantastic seminar with Don. Don is exactly who he is on his podcast and his Business Made. I got to put a plug in for Business Made Simple University. Don has created this Business Made Simple University, businessmadesimple.com. I don't get any royalties here. I just believe in. He's created this to go head to head with every business school in America. Every business school in America, and it's a moonshot for him. It's a very aspirational goal, but I believe in him, and I've taken some of the courses just to test it out, and it's amazing. It is real, raw, relevant, like to today's business challenges. It's incredible. Don is an incredible person. I got to interview him. It was one of my goals this year, was to interview Don Miller for a podcast, and he was gracious enough to let us do that. And it was like one of the highlights of this year for me, because it also was what it was the power of intention, right? When you actually say, I'm going to do this. And then you see it happen, and that just makes you feel like, yeah, all things are possible in life. So anything by Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, Joe Polish, if you want marketing, the three amigos, they're well, there's actually four, but Richest Man in Babylon, must read. It's like $5 on Amazon. As a Man Thinketh. That is powerful. It's 30 pages of power. If you don't ever read another book, read As a Man Thinketh. It's about mindset, and it's a quick read, but I mean, every paragraph is powerful. Obviously, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Gotta read it. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm on 4 now, probably like 6 actually. By Napoleon Hill, or no, not How to Friend
Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. And then Og Mangino, The Greatest Salesman on Earth. Those are all powerful. They're easy reads, and you make your kids read them. Like if they ever want another meal, make them read one of those books.
You told me you'd be long-winded. You did warn me.
Yeah.
Right.
When you said I want to interview, I'm like, well, how many days do you have?
I got one last question before we wrap. What are your 3 pillars of wealth creation?
All right. So 3 pillars, I would say, own and run your own business. Right. So, try to, I'm not saying just go quit your job and start your business today, but you know what? Build yourself a bridge out. I got my real estate license, and I spent 15 months building a bridge out of it was a 6-figure job I was leaving. I mean, I had to build some confidence that I was going to win, and I've never looked back. But I've had some great mentors from my days at Target and Fair Isaac and stuff that I've given call out, recently on Facebook. So own and run your own business. I don't care if it's a hot dog stand, own the hot dog stand, right? So invest into real estate, invest wisely. All right. So invest. I'm just saying invest in real estate, invest in other things, other people, your time and energy. And then I would say the third is you have to, and this might be number 1, but surround yourself with advisors who are where you want to be. Like that's, invest in education, invest in education from people, invest in education from books, invest in education from seminars. I've spent over 6 figures this year in education for me. All right. And my team. Why? Because I want to be better. Yeah. Like I want to be better. I want to be the best version of myself. And you owe it to yourself to do that. Like you don't want to look like, everyone do this. If you do nothing else today, write your obituary, right? Take 15 minutes. You don't want to take 3 hours, right? Because then you can edit, but set a clock, take 15 minutes, write your obituary. And then take another 15 minutes and write a letter to your wife and kids if you're married and have children, if it's your wife, kids, whatever, and write down, because I had to do this year. I had to do that Warrior Week. Write down what you just found out they died in a car accident. Write down what you wish you would have said to them. Take 15 minutes, set the clock, write down what you wish you would have said to them, and then write your obituary separately and tell me what, and read it back to yourself. If you like what it says, you're comfortable with that, you're in a better place than I am. So,
wow. That could be powerful.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
You want me to keep going?
No. All right. So last thing, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Okay. I'm going to give you my cell phone number, 612-600-8888. That is my personal cell phone number, 612-600-8888. It is easy to remember, too easy sometimes. If you're a renter of mine, no, just kidding.
That's a great did you request that? Because that's a perfect cell phone number.
Everything's a story with me. Okay. So what happened was back in like 2004, I had this guy, I won't name his name, but I remember his name like it's yesterday. And he was a little bit of a pain in my butt. He was helping with some of the rehab projects. He was really just a day laborer kind of guy. Nicest guy in the world, though. Great guy. Like if I met him today, I'd give him a hug. Like really, like wonderful person, just not real skilled in the trades. And that's the other thing. That's the other advice. You get good at the trades, because I'll tell you what, there's opportunity there. You don't even get me going. But he kept calling me. He called me way too much. I saw this number always. I'm like, I used to dread it. I'm finally like, well, wait, I want that number. So I said, I'll tell you his first name, Michael. I'm like, I'll give you $400 and a new phone. Can you switch out and take a different number, and I'll take your phone? He's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be awesome. So I got this great number, had ever since. And yeah, I mean, it's he got $400 and a new cell phone. I got like the easiest number in the world to remember. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. My company's verde-realestate.com. That's if you want to, go there, but just text me on my cell phone if you want to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, Scott, it was a lot of fun. Appreciate you. Yeah. Appreciate you coming on the show. A lot of good stories, a lot of good advice. Definitely appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Todd.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Have a good rest of the day.
All right. You too.
Hey, special thanks to Scott for joining us on the show. Appreciate him taking time out of his day and adding a ton of value. It was a lot of fun. A couple things I took from this episode. First of all, he talks about checking your ego. Sometimes we think we're a little bit better than what we are, or we start to get overconfident. Just check your ego. Make sure that you're being humble and that you're still being consistent and moving on and not just assuming you've got it all figured out. He said next, stay curious and ask questions. Make sure you're always learning, always asking questions and staying curious. And then the other thing he said is just surround yourself with great advisors. Surround yourself with people that can support you and help you along the way. So those are three great things that Scott said, among many others. So take one thing out of this episode that you really got from it and apply it this week every single day, and make sure you're applying it every single day. And that's going to help you get to the next level. Thanks for listening. I'm Todd Dexheimer. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Make every day Saturday. Thanks for listening to the show. A couple things before we go. Again, go on to our Facebook page, Pillars of Wealth. We'd love to have you on there. Go on to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and subscribe to the show. Also, don't forget, reach out to me if you want any help with potentially growing your business, and reach out to John Stiles to help you buy or sell real estate. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Have a fantastic rest of the day. And as I say, make every day a Saturday.